We ready? Or not yet?
Thanks for coming, guys.
For you, anything.
John, it wasn't the free meal, was it?
What's that?
It wasn't the free meal.
We're just having
Two
some
those
technical difficulties.
children's hot dogs. Yeah.
No, he's just expressing a willingness to do anything so Scotty can get away with it.
We need to change that mission statement. That is all wrong. That mission statement.
We're ready.
Okay, we're ready. Here we are. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Harbor Commissioners amended special meeting budget workshop on April 16th at 3 o'clock here at the Oyster Point Marina Yacht Club. Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Brennan, Commissioner Holsinger.
Here.
Commissioner Paravano, Commissioner Tucker.
Here.
President Bernardo.
Here. We are now in open session. We are going to go into closed session shortly, and what we're going to do right now is identify a district real property negotiator, and that's going to be Peter Grinnell. So do I hear a motion to go into closed session?
So moved. Second.
I hear a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we are now we're going to be in closed session,
where are
which
we gonna
is
meet?
where?
Right where you are.
Right here.
Did you ask everybody else?
We could go out on the deck and leave everybody in here.
Yeah, exactly. You walk out to the boat.
So, sorry for the inconvenience, but
President Tucker.
okay, great. We are back in open session for our special budget workshop meeting today. So what I'd like to do before we do that, looking at the agenda here, is public comment and questions first. Are there any comment cards? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Dan Blick. Yeah, feel free to just address the board from right there. That's fine. Thank you.
Greetings to the board and staff. My name is Dan Blick. I work with Philippine Partners. We are a mobile app developer and a social media marketing organization in Halfton Bay. And one thing that we'd like to encourage is the inclusion of a proposal or some funding in the budget for our marketing activities for the harbor and for the fishermen. 2 years ago, after 2 years of no salmon, the fishermen finally came back with fish in their boats. The harbor was empty. There was no one there. And I thought, this is outrageous. So that's when we got the idea for what is now Fishline, a mobile app that lets customers get in touch with the fishermen and buy fresh fish off the boats at the harbor. And not just the fishermen, but restaurants and seafood vendors that are selling fresh, sustainable local seafood. So we're very interested in working with whatever marketing activities are going on for the harbor. And so we've had no funding for this today. We decided early on that we wouldn't ask for money from the fishermen, especially after their hardship for 2 years. And we decided that we wouldn't make it a paid app. We wouldn't be asking our customers to fund the marketing activities. So we see the mobile app and our Facebook presence and our contribution to the harbor's Facebook presence as infrastructure. And as such, we'd like to be included in the Harbor District's plans for marketing and communication infrastructure, getting more people to the harbor.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment cards this time? Okay. So now we're about to go into the public hearing for the draft preliminary operating and capital budget for fiscal year 2014-15. Just in terms of the way this is going to work is, what I'd like to do is, after I declare the meeting open, we're going to have the presentation, and then if there are any questions or comment cards regarding this budget presentation, I'd like to take them after. But I'd like to have the presentation go on first, and then we'll do the questions after. So I'm going to declare the hearing open. And Mr. Grinnell, has the report of notice been given?
Yes, it has, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. So now we are going to have our staff report regarding the draft budget for fiscal year 2014 and 2015. So, Ms. Galarza, you ready?
The purpose of this presentation is to give the Commission an understanding of the district's current financial position and how the financial condition is expected to change. This will provide the Commission with the tools it needs to decide how to allocate the district's resources to address competing priorities. To aid members of the audience, I'd like to start off with a brief overview of the district's budget process, followed by an overview of the district's finances. I'd like to start with just our mission statement. Sometimes we lose sight of what we're actually here to do, and it's to ensure that the public is provided with a clean, safe, well-managed, financially sound, and environmentally pleasant marinas. So I just want to let us all remember what we're here for. The purpose of the budget is to estimate the revenues and establish expenditure authority. Each year we provide current year capital spending in the operating budget for expenditure authorities. Budgets are key financial instruments to prevent overspending. Governments are required to institute certain accounting controls, such as integrating both the budget and purchase orders into their accounting systems. Budgets not only reflect operating revenues and expenses, but non-operating revenues and expenses as well. Governments must take into account costs associated with maintaining and repairing long-term assets in their budget process. So this is the remaining budget schedule for 14-15. As you can see, the next meeting, we'll have to adopt the preliminary budget, and then we'll have a continuation of the public hearing on May 21st, as well as June 4th. But on June 4th, we're going to adopt the wage and salary classification by resolution, and the 18th is when we finally adopt the final budget. And then in July 1st, it goes into effect. The district receives funding from a variety of sources. Operating revenues are the charges addressed in our rates and fees schedule in the contracts, the leases. Additionally, grants like the state abandoned water abatement funds that facilitate operations are captured as operating revenues. The district also receives nearly a third of its revenues from property taxes. It also receives funds from the Redevelopment Agency, also known as RDA, and the Educational Refund Augmentation, ERAF. These funds are not guaranteed like tax revenues and therefore not accounted for in the budget. Recent examples of reimbursements include the funding from the city of South San Francisco to help with our cost of the dock replacement. In some years, revenues from these sources are greater than necessary to meet all the district's operating needs. In these years, the excess revenues are set into reserve for a period when the district will be investing in infrastructure or when disaster occurs. These reserves also provide a source of monies in lean years. Other sources of funding include interest income from the reserves. taxes are given to the district because our mission and objectives are broader than simply operating a harbor and marina. We provide all the services shown in this slide with the addition of serving the public with what general marinas would provide. The tax revenues we receive allow us to offer these services. Very important, our search and rescue is very successful in aiding the public. The Bay Trail maintenance is something that is in this year's budget, as well as the coastal trail access. We have beach access, trash removal, public restrooms, and some public events. So what are our opportunities? The district is in a strong financial condition. The district has put practices in place that limit the district's termination exposure. By that I mean they've canceled the benefit for anybody hired.
Thank you.
The district is in a strong financial condition. The district has put practices in place that limit the district's termination liability exposure. By that I mean the benefit has been canceled for anyone hired after 2009. However, aging facilities are necessitating greater expenses to maintain those assets. The district must dip into the reserves to fund these projects. Grants, when available, are not sufficient to cover these costs. The district has been offering several public outreach events, such as the annual boat lighting events at Pillar Point, tenant appreciation events at both facilities, kite flying events, and Easter egg hunt at OPM. Such exposure could lead to improved tenancy rates. Within the next several years, it also anticipates that the district will receive one-time revenues related to the disposition of the surplus parcel referred to as the post office lot. The district hopes to begin to complete the purchase of a building on Alhambra in El Granada. This could result in a deduction of rental expense of approximately $94,000 annually, as well as additional revenue. This slide reflects our current debt service schedule with one small modification. The district has set aside restricted reserves that, with interest, amount to approximately $1.7 million. These reserves act as collateral for the debt and are only restricted until the principal on the debt is required. We intend to use these funds to make 2 payments in 1 year in late 2018. The graph has been modified from the debt service schedule in order to reflect our intended use of the reserve funds. This is why there is a steeper decline in the last year, showing a more rapid repayment of the principal at that time. While capital assets are paid for and then shown in expenses in later years, liabilities are expensed right away and paid for in future years. One major liability for the district is the termination benefit. What is it? It's available for any employee hired before 2009. To become vested for this benefit, the employee must work for the district at least 12 years. The benefit is half a year of health insurance paid for every year worked. Example, employee leaves after 12 years. The district pays 6 years' worth of health insurance for that employee and covered dependents. If they work 20 years, they will receive 10 years' worth of health insurance. Currently, there are 10 employees eligible but not yet vested, 10 employees who have vested, 7 employees who were hired after 2009 and are ineligible, and 5 employees who are currently receiving the benefit. The structure of the district's medical benefit for employees is unique, and it limits the district's liability for such cost. The assumptions are that there will be no departures through 2021 for this graph. If someone does retire before then, that would decrease the liability, assuming all employees will have benefits covering the employee and one dependent at the time of departure and upon reaching age 65. It is a big possibility that expenses will last a long time. Under the scenario assumed for this graph, If the youngest employee that is eligible to be vested for the benefit stays with the district and leaves at age 60, the last termination benefit payment would be made in 2055. Of course, it's completely possible that employees may leave the district prior to vesting, may not live long enough to use all of their benefits, or may leave before then. Although the district is in a good place financially, the district does rely on tax revenues. The district has been fortunate to be receiving excess ERAP funds and excess redevelopment agency dissolution funds over the past 3 years. But such additional revenues aren't included in the budget. With ERAP, RDA, and reimbursements and grant revenue, the district has been able to grow its cash reserves. The district is approaching a period where it will need to begin several facility maintenance projects to address the district's aging facilities. The priorities used to determine which projects to be accepted are: 1, is it legally required? 2, is it related to health and safety issues? And 3, does it generate revenue? As the district completes...
Excuse me, Ms. Galarza?
Yeah.
Sorry. You know, because of the acoustics in this room and also the door being open and the planes coming, can you do me a big favor?
Yeah.
Would you mind just, forget the mic, can you sit here and then read that? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Just being in the middle, I think that'll be easier for everyone else to... Oh, there, the mic is working now that you dropped it. It's working now.
Testing.
See, it's when you try it, it doesn't work.
Testing.
Oh, better. Okay, never mind. Now, please continue. Better. Yay. Thank you. Yay.
Okay, is that better still?
No,
There must be a short in it.
Something going on there.
Could be the cord.
they're good.
No.
I think when you move it,
I think it's the cable, the way it's connected in.
It only does it in Morse code.
Okay,
Challenge. Okay.
there we go.
The district does face challenges because of its dependence on non-operating revenues and its aging facilities. ERAF and RDA contributions aren't known, so we don't estimate for those. So although the district is in a good place financially, the district does rely on tax revenues. The district has
Faded out to be.
Ms. Galarza, why don't you just sit here?
Okay.
I think it'd just be so much easier.
Okay.
And that way everyone else can hear you, I think. Perfect. Okay. And that way you can...
Although the district is in a good place financially, the district does rely on tax revenues. The district has been fortunate to be receiving excess ERAF funds and redevelopment agency dissolution funds over the past 3 years. ERAF over the past 3 years has been $2.4 million, and RDA has been $1.5 million. With ERAF, RDA, and reimbursements and grant revenues, the district has been able to grow its cash reserves. The district is approaching a period where it will need to begin several facility maintenance projects to address the district's aging facilities. The priorities used to determine which projects to be accepted are: 1, is it legal? Did I do this one already? Legally required. 2, is it related to health and safety issues? And 3, does it generate revenue? As the district completes such projects, the cash reserve will drop. The district will obviously look for grants to help fund this type of expense, and the district has enjoyed a financial partnership with the City of South San Francisco, where the city has contributed to the cost of major capital outlay projects at OPM. This here is Romeo Pier at Pillar Point Harbor. You know, this is something I think we do need to add to the budget this year, because I think it is a safety issue, and it's just deteriorating daily. So this is a picture of the decking, and then the next picture will be of the buildings that are on the dock. And you notice that people actually walk on those docks and go to those because you see all the graffiti, and that's just a liability or something really bad waiting to happen. So it's not on the budget now, but I think it's something that we should consider putting on this year. Operating revenues and expenses. The district's revenue remains relatively flat as there have been no real additions to operating revenue streams. We've renegotiated leases, increased birthing rates, and are purchasing a building for revenue and rent expense cost saving, which is why fiscal year 14-15 and 15-16 show a slight increase. Operating expenses run about $2.5 million over revenues. These are funded by taxes. Depreciation runs about $1.5 million, is important because it represents the used up portion of the asset and indicates what expense the district will have to incur in the future in order to bring those assets back to fully operating status. This slide shows just how, like in 10-11 and 11-12, there wasn't that much capital spending. But as you look at 12-13 and the years after, we have a lot of expenditures to maintain assets going on. And the capital expenses are rising because maintenance has to be done for those deferred items. At least 4 of these needed expenses do not generate revenue directly. So other capital projects that are in the budget for Pillar Point, this is a continuation, but it's the dock fingers at Pillar Point. And I know at the time that we had this before the board, we had a few options. This was the most expensive option. So just, as we have multiple capital projects, maybe we need to not choose the most expensive ones. Maybe we can go the middle road. The Mavericks Trail is in need of repair. And that's something that we should work on. The PPH sidewalk is back on the budget. It's been on the budget before. And this is revenue generating. So it would be a good project for the district to do because it could potentially generate revenue. The rip-rap fishing repair, that's been a carryover for many years, but it's still remains an item that we need to address. The inner harbor dredging, this also keeps our revenue stream going. If the boats can't go in and out, then we can't collect fees for them berthing with us. So this happens every several years. It's expensive, but it's in order to maintain our revenue stream. The paid parking has also been on the budget before. It's something to consider because it could generate revenues, and that's why we brought it back. The launch ramp restroom design, that might be something that we hold off on this year since we're going to have to do the pier. It was just, I know it's just $25,000 in design, but it'll be a lot more, and we have to kind of see where our finances are. This fire main, I think we're dealing with this now, right, Scott?
Same area.
Same area? Yeah, and this needs to get fixed. In the moorings, again, that's revenue generating. We charge berth rents for people on moorings, and those being that they're in the conditions of the water and, there's rust and everything, those need to be constantly repaired. So, I think $20,000 is on this year's budget, and it'll probably be on every year's budget. Oyster Point, the city of South San Francisco reimbursed the district for the dock repairs in the amount of $2 million this fiscal year. They had dredging is expensive in operational costs that needs to be done every several years to secure our revenue. The restrooms were remodeled, electric meters replaced, and launch ramps redone. The guest dock and Dock 11 were rebuilt, the guest dock with a grant and the Dock 11 with the city reimbursement. There are no new capital projects at Oyster Point this year.
Which ones were reimbursed by the city?
Dock 11.
So they only reimbursed us for Dock 11?
Yeah, but we got a grant to cover Dock 8. Guest dock.
Thank you.
The only thing we really need to address at Oyster Point is the title. We need some title design because this happens a few times a year, but basically no public members can come and go and get their business done at the facility, and sometimes our accounting tech gets stranded. So she does. We have to go save her.
Oh my God.
But, so that should be addressed. And this just shows kind of the same as the tables that, it shows in fiscal years 10, 11, and 11, 12, how we just kind of didn't do too much, but we started to really start fixing facilities up in fiscal year 12, 13. Pillar Point still has quite a few projects outstanding, but for now, Oyster Point is pretty much done unless there is an emergency item that comes up
For at least another year.
for at least another year.
Or unless they pave the parking lot.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Please continue.
Oh, no.
Go ahead.
Oh. The graph doesn't come up, but I think. Oh, okay. Okay. This graph will compare the district's revenues to its expenses. I want to show you that we anticipate we will receive in total revenues. As you can see, operating revenues make up about half of total revenues. Property taxes make up the other half. It was previously mentioned that the district may or may not continue to receive ERAF refunds in the future, or RDA. The revenue shows in this graph have no ERAF or RDA refunds built in. What is built in is an assumption of continued 2% growth to the property tax base, which is the maximum allowed under Prop 13, provided there are no new ownership transfers, and a growth of the property tax base to account for continued sale of older homes. Under Prop 13, when a home sells, it may be reassessed at market rates, and greater taxes would be assessed on that property. This graph shows you the historical amount of cash the district has carried in the recent years, as well as the expected change through 2016. The red line is the projected shift, where the blue line shows historic information. And you can see kind of the dip in 2009 and how we go to a nice rise after that. In 2010, we received $3.6 million from WIDA, and then we received a $640,000 grant, and then we just received $2 million from South San Francisco. Currently, the amount of cash is significant, with a strength, which is a strength for the district. However, the amount of available cash is expected to drop over the next couple of years. Although a drop in cash is not something to celebrate, this does demonstrate that the district's cash does undulate, so such a drop is not unusual when the district is investing in repairs and development of its facilities. So we just kind of go through, and cash reserves are declining because of our aging facilities. We don't know about RDA and ERAF, and that,
I'm sorry, can you, if I can just interrupt you?
Yeah.
All these acronyms, can
I
you
said them in the...
explain again? I'm
I
sorry.
said them in the front, in the
Okay.
beginning.
Can you just, again, just say what RDA and ERAF is? I'm sorry.
Yeah, RDA is Redevelopment Agency,
Okay.
and ERAF is Educational, I don't have it off the top of my head. Revenue Augmentation. Oh, it's right.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank
Oh.
you. Okay, thank you.
Oh, see,
I'm sorry. I wasn't-
Redevelopment Agency, RDA, okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And one of the reasons the cash is declining too is that 30% of our spending comes out of reserves every year. But, you know, there is potential,
What was that last part? How much was that reserved every year?
about 30%.
30?
30.
Yeah, 30% comes out of reserves.
Yeah. And we have, how are we addressing, yeah,
Is that 30% of the reserves is removed, or does that mean 30% of the operating budget is out from the reserves?
it's that if you have a budget of $1 million, 70% of that is going to be covered between operating revenues and taxes, and 30% is coming out of the reserves, the money that we talked about, that we save for lean years and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long has that been happening, the 30%?
Well, it's not 30% every year, but, because some years we have where we don't dip into reserves at all. But I can give you information for however many years you want.
Okay.
Yeah. So how are we, addressing these declining reserves? We could reduce some capital expenditures, maybe not do everything all at once, maybe space it out over the years and look at it, as what's most important, and things that can kind of wait, just put them on the burner for a while, just to kind of smooth our spending. We are saving money because we have a new two-tiered benefit system in place for the new employees that allows for cost savings. And what that is for new employees, they're not in our longevity program, so that's a savings there. As well as there's a difference, there's a two-tier system in CalPERS. So that does help us save a lot of money. We have proposed paid parking at Pillar Point Harbor that may be able to generate revenue. I think a big savings is moving the district office to the district-owned building and also collecting rent from that building. We have a couple new leases to negotiate. We could look for revenue there. We could apply for more grants. And the strategic plan will identify new revenue sources. So I think, we have a lot of opportunity. We have a really strong cash position right now. And I think we just need to look at ways to kind of keep the cash reserve and just do our projects, but just not all at once. I think, because you can see how in 12, 13, and 13, 14, we spent a lot of money, especially if you go back to, let's see. Where's that slide? Can I see yours? No, there's one slide that's really good. If you go to slide, I guess for the ones that have the hard copy, 28, it's this one. It's just interesting that operating revenues remain about the same. And if you look, for a while, total expenses including capital were less than total revenues.
Could you go back to that slide so the public can see?
Yeah, I thought, oh, she is. Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks. It's just, you can see how, fiscal year 10, 11 through about 12, 13, how the blue line, which is total revenues, were greater than the red line, which was expenses including capital, and how that's now changing. So the variance between the red line and the blue line is what you're going to look to get out of your reserves. Because you can't cover it with total revenue, so where do you go?
And of course, the red line can be controlled more by capital and projects.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, the red line can be controlled, yeah. Okay, yeah,
Let's just finish this up first, and then we'll
I
get to the
think we're
questions.
done.
I think there was one more slide, though, or no? This
Oh,
one right
yeah.
here?
Oh, no, I went through that.
This one?
Oh, no, I didn't. What are our top, there, thank you.
No problem.
I think part of mine's over there. So what are our top priorities? Definitely, we need to identify ways to increase revenues, and we're going to do that. Mindful spending, I think I went through that. Let's think about our cash flow when we're thinking about what we need to spend. Find a way to save money. If you have 2 ways to fix a bathroom, and one is just to maybe do minor repairs to keep it operating or put a whole new structure up, let's just go for the minor repairs. And then, always remember our mission statement. We're here for the public. We're here to make their experience at our facilities a good one. So, we've been doing a good job. We just need to keep going, and I think that's all, and I'm open for questions.
Bud Rats. Hi. First of all, I'd like to compliment you on the background and the context that you provided in terms of the printed package. Very thorough. But I'd like to go back to the chart of total revenues and total expenses.
What slide is that, sir?
That one is there.
There's a number on the bottom.
My question was going to be, if we take capital expenses out of total expenses, how much cash are the operations throwing out for capital improvements?
Say that again?
You have total expenses including capital.
Right.
If you take the capital expenditures out of that, then how much excess revenue over operating expenses do you have that's going towards capital projects? What I'm interested in is what cash the current operation is throwing out that.
Yeah, I think it's on a different slide
capital
though.
projects.
What slide number was that?
27, or 28.
So I think your answer is on slide 13. We have operating revenues coming in at close to $5.5 million. And we have total revenues up to 7. So the
Operating
difference.
expense. Operating expense.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm saying where the capital one is.
So the operating does not include capital.
No, I'm saying in this slide, he's saying without capital.
Right.
What are operating revenues and expenses? And I'm saying it's on slide 13. Slide 13.
I have a question in
Yeah.
complement to that. Do the operating expenses include the depreciation?
Yes.
So, and that's a line item rather than an actual cash outlay, correct?
Well, depreciation shows what expenses you would need to incur to keep everything fully operational.
Correct, but it's a line item rather than an actual cash outlay in the current fiscal year. It's an anticipated outlay in a future fiscal year.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
So the answer to that, his question would be that the operating expenses are out almost $2 million from the revenues. Is that how you interpret that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's nothing being thrown
So
off.
you'll work some of those numbers out. Because your operating revenues here don't include tax, you also have tax revenues that are not.
Oh, you want to see total revenues?
Yeah.
Oh, I split it up on different slides, but I can fix it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Operating revenue with the taxes is about 4.5 million?
No, operating revenues with taxes are over on this
No,
side.
just the taxes, property tax.
Oh, property tax runs about, 4 million
Annually,
annually.
4 million annually, okay.
Yeah.
Was there another question? Is there a question? Commissioner Brennan, did you have a question? Okay.
I have some questions, but I was going to let Public go first.
Okay, so I think it's time then for, thank you so much for that presentation. Very thorough. It was a really good kind of budget finance 101 for me.
I have a question. I have a comment. I don't know if this is the right time for it.
Why don't we go ahead and do that then, and let's just have, if you can please state your name and then,
Yeah. Nicole David, Captain Bay. I wanted to suggest to include potentially some Green Street development into the sidewalk, BC sidewalk project. I know that Scott is very familiar with it, but what it does is basically it allows some treatment of stormwater runoff from parking lots and streets. And every parking lot, even smaller sized parking lots, have actually contributed pollutants to waterways, like in this case, the harbor. And it's mostly trace elements, copper coming from brake pads. They're mostly pollutants that are vehicle-derived, hydrocarbons, often highly toxic to aquatic organisms. So San Mateo County is actually doing a leading role in implementing these green street, green infrastructure, where they see opportunities to treat stormwater before it runs off into the receiving water body. And it would just take, and now since you're planning on doing the whole sidewalk in front of the building there, right, it only takes like 3 to 5 feet wide swale to allow some infiltration of stormwater, and it gets filtered and absorbed by the soil and the plants. And I think these implementations are kind of like a win-win-win situation, because you do treat the stormwater, so you make the runoff cleaner that goes into the harbor. They're mostly using native plants, so it's like aesthetically looking. It might be nice for the patrons to enjoy native plants. Instead of looking at the cars, it could include some small trees, maybe some shade. And it could be a good educational tool if there would be an interpretive sign saying like the harbor district is, working or putting effort into treating stormwater and reducing pollutants going into the harbor. Of course, they increase the cost at the beginning, but they usually are very low maintenance when you use native plants, so they don't need watering, they don't need fertilizers. They use plants usually that do very well in our climate. And I know that there are contractors in Lost Beach, Montero that do that kind of work, so I wanted to encourage the commission to think about that.
okay. Thank you very much.
I have a question for Deborah, please.
Sure. And then to Commissioner.
The RDA funds, it's my understanding that those are going to be less and less with time. In your experience, or from what you've seen, have we really seen the majority of the RDA funds for the district, or do you think there's some more out there that we may be getting
I
sometime?
think we might be getting more, but it's hard to say because you're talking about the state issuing us refunds, and if they need the money and they want to keep it, they're going to keep it.
Okay. But is there like a practical timeline that we're facing the possibility of RDA runoff funds for the next 5
ending?
years? Yeah, when it's likely to end?
I can look into that and get back to you. I can try to call the agency and see if they can let us know that, would be good for budgeting purposes, for sure.
And it's my understanding that the ERAF funds don't have the same kind of runoff potential and
Right.
ending potential that the RDA refunds do. Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Brennan, you had some questions?
Yeah, thanks. So I noticed there wasn't a slide in here about election costs. Could you talk a little bit about what we're expecting and anticipating with upcoming?
Yeah, last election expense was about $580,000, but that was for 2 seats. So this year we'll have 3 seats, so I estimated it at $650. Now, you know, we have the option to pay it all at once, which they prefer, or they have a payment plan, but I forget what the interest was, but it was pretty steep. I want to say it was like 4%. I know it was going to cost us a lot more money, so I put it in the budget as a one-time payment.
Okay, thank you. And then I wondered if this, I know I didn't get a copy of this budget workshop PDF in advance of the meeting.
You know, I finished it like at 12 o'clock today.
So I was wondering if it could be published on the district's website so that for future budget meetings, people could review it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's a great idea.
And there was some additional text that you included with your report that's not in the slides. You know, when you were speaking, you didn't just read from the slides, you provided additional information.
Oh, yeah.
Her notes.
Notes. I was wondering if we could get a PDF of your notes so that we can, that way I don't have to email you a bunch of questions that you've already covered and I just didn't absorb it quick enough.
Would you like me to wait and view the tape from the TV and add those questions or the commentary that's not in the slides before I give you the PDF? Or you want just what I had in?
Oh, I wouldn't want you to have to do all that extra work. I think
Okay.
just providing what you read from would be sufficient. And then if I had a question with more info, you know, request for more info, I could get back to you with that.
Okay.
Maybe we could publish that alongside of the PDF for the workshop too, for people who might have trouble
So maybe
hearing.
something more like this where it's the slide and
Yeah, that'd be great.
yeah, that's fine.
That would help.
Especially since the
Because we had trouble hearing you, and then...
I'm sorry.
That's okay, it's not your fault. But I think that there are a lot of people who can't make a meeting at this time of day and couldn't get over to this location. So that way, instead of fielding a million questions, they could just read that, and that'll probably answer a lot of them.
Okay.
So that's, thank you. And then, let's see. On page, well, you know what, I think a lot of my questions are going to be answered when I get that info, because like on page 9 of 34, you mentioned numbers of employees related to future termination benefits and all that, and I just couldn't take it all in. So I don't want to ask that question, I'm just going to wait for what you provide.
Okay.
And then again, the same thing with page 10 where you quoted some ERAF and RDA, I think.
Oh, right, the monies we received
Yeah,
so
so that'll
far.
be
That'll
in
be
there.
in there, yeah.
Okay, so I don't need to, two things back to the slide that you asked about with the employees.
Yeah.
It says on here retirement, and that's the assumption that was made in the actual.
I thought we took that out.
I thought we did too, but I don't like to put retirement on this graph.
Okay.
Because our longevity benefit or termination benefit has absolutely nothing to do with whether the employee retires or not.
Okay.
If they leave the Harbor District and they've qualified with their 12 years, they will get the benefit.
So,
I just
okay.
want-
So is it
We'll
okay
fix-
that I change that to leave rather than retire, not to
Yeah.
confuse the public?
We'll
Because
change
it's not a
that.
retirement.
You'll update that with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And that's full-time employees, not commissioners.
Right.
Okay. Okay. And let's see, let me get through this quickly. On the list of projects on page 14, what I'm glad to see at this meeting that's a little bit different than what we did on March 6th last year is that it really looks like the list of projects that are being proposed are really fundamental projects and really important projects. So we're not seeing a bunch of other extraneous stuff. So that's, I just want to compliment the staff on, kind of just giving us the urgency type projects. And I'm glad to see that the sidewalk is included. I really appreciated the comment from the public about trying to make that project into a green project and to deal with runoff, because we do have a parking lot which creates a lot of runoff, and of course it goes right into our marine environment. So if there are ways to try to do more with bioswales and some of those things to improve the quality of the runoff so we don't have so much fuel and oil and stuff like that going right into the water, that would be great. And we do have some green space right along the border of, between the sidewalk and the harbor and the parking lot at Pillar Point Harbor. So that's great. And I know we spend a lot of money on gopher maintenance, because I see that on the billing all the time. And I know how the coast side is. We have like the worst gopher problem ever. So it's incredibly difficult to, to try to manage that. But there might be some ways where we could, instead of throwing all this money into gopher maintenance, which I doubt we could ever get away from that completely given the situation, but maybe there's some ways at looking at how to use some of those narrow green spaces that frontage the harbor to, create bioswales and also plan for ways to try to keep the gophers out. And that might mean maybe in some places we need to make some raised beds, or we need to have some sort of, I'm sure everything's already been tried, but I just think we ought to look at it. So I appreciated that comment, and I hope that we will look at that, because it might also enable us to possibly get some grant funding for the sidewalk project that we wouldn't be eligible for otherwise. There are a lot of grant funds out there to try to get these sort of projects done, and this could be looked at as a demonstration project. Maybe there's some possibilities there. What else? The sewer system replacement, so that's what we've already done. So that would be the work under the Lisi's building, as well as the new line under Johnson Pier. Is there consideration for whatever additional funds are going to be needed to deal with our latest sewage?
Well, I had in 50,000, but I think it's going to be more like 100.
Oh, the repair?
Yeah.
Just don't know yet till,
Oh.
they don't start digging the hole till tomorrow, but we'll talk about
Well, we
that in
had
the report.
50, so that will change probably. We'll probably know before we do the final budget.
Yeah, it's going to be a project that'll probably be done.
Yeah.
it's gonna
We'll
be-
know more after.
Okay.
Less than 2 weeks
So
will
that
probably be
might
done.
change a little bit in the
Yeah,
next,
that's probably well,
in the
yeah.
next couple weeks. Okay. And we've already talked about the finger docks and the fact that's going to be coming up on the next meeting tonight, so we can talk more about that there. On slide 21, which is also the sidewalk again, I made a note, just that, I think hearing about bioswales and what the tenants need and the plan to get tenant input and public input for this project, it all kind of lends itself to somehow being influenced by the strategic planning process. So just wanted to emphasize that point. And I understand on page 22, we've got the Pillar Point Harbor boat launch ramp restroom, and I understand why this might get put off, given the scope of all the other work that needs to get done. It seems like maybe something that we could wait on. That bathroom isn't horrible yet compared to, say, the facility at the West Shoreline access, which is more of a portalet situation. So it seems like if we were going to prioritize something, it would be there versus here, although it'd be nice to do both, but maybe we can't afford it. On page 23, I'm not sure I quite understand the sinkhole. Is this right in front of the
Harbor office.
In front of the harbor master's office? Okay. And is this related to this latest sewage?
Potentially, that's, we don't know if that's what damaged the sewer line, but there's about, 4 lines, water lines in there, 2 to 3 water lines in there, plus electrical, plus there's just a whole bunch of utilities all in the same spot.
All crisscrossing. Right.
Yeah, and so, it used to be we drove, our fish buyers had trucks that were small, and then we started moving to semis with heavy, heavy loads, and when they come off the concrete deck, fully loaded, it's a kind of a hammer hit.
Yeah.
And so I think what it's done is it started impacting that area.
Okay.
And pushing down and compacting, and eventually, with normal groundwater, it took the fines out. And so all of a sudden, you have an air gap of sorts, and all of a sudden, impact occurred.
Okay. Well, it's good to see a picture of it because I wasn't quite sure where the spot was, although I was over there looking for spray paint marks on the...
Yeah, they did yesterday, I think it was, the called USA, before you dig, spray painted the area.
Yeah.
Before they start getting into the utilities.
Okay, so they already did that.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Keep moving. There were some comments that were made about on page 25, and I can get those from your notes, so I don't need to ask about that. But there was a lot of information there. I wanted to review it. The picture on page 26 is so emblematic of, the fact that Oyster Point is sinking the land here, and we also have sea level rise considerations. And so I just appreciated that this picture was included, and I know it's really difficult for the staff to get to that building, and it's not working very well right now, so I just wanted to mention that. There were also some notes that are some information provided on page 29, and I'll wait for that. And I think that's all I have on this presentation. I have some other questions about the budget, but I assume we're going to get to that.
Go into that, yeah.
Okay.
I just have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Just 2 questions. On page 14, where it's major pillar point capital expenses, we were just discussing these. You had mentioned that 4 of these on the list do not generate revenue. Can you just go over which 4 do not generate revenue, just so that I'm clear? On
Which
Like
page?
the
I'm sorry.
restrooms don't generate revenue.
Okay, so I'm sorry. So restrooms, okay, what were the other?
What page is that? I'm sorry.
14. 14. Sorry, 14.
The sewer system replacement doesn't
Sewer
generate
system, okay.
revenue.
Okay.
The West Trail repairs don't generate
Okay.
revenue.
And then shoreline
And the shoreline
improvement, I
doesn't
assume, right?
generate
Okay. Okay, thank you. And then the other question I had was on page 33. On page 33, what are our top priorities?
Okay.
You say mindful spending. Do they answer the 3 criteria? What are the 3 criteria? I think I maybe missed them.
Is it legally required?
Legally required.
Is it
Generate revenue.
generate revenue?
Generate
And
revenue.
is there a health and safety issue?
Health and safety. Okay, thank you. That-
And I
that
should
answers my
probably
question.
put that in the body of my
great.
notes.
That'd be great.
Because
Yeah, that'd be
someone might
great.
That'd be
forget it,
great.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's great. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
One last thing. I'll go last.
So why don't we do Commissioner Brennan and Commissioner Holsinger? Commissioner
Okay.
Brennan?
Okay. I just forgot to mention a piece that I wanted to bring up, which is not included here, and it is I think it's an expense that adds up over time. It's hard to quantify because we have all these different vendors that we buy things from or services that we get related to our support for marketing activities for the harbor, and also some of the the various things that we fund, such as example, I think it was Rock the Block last time, or I don't remember. So we've got money going out for various events, and then we've got money going out for various marketing efforts, including things like the website and all the little tchotchke things that we give away, and we've got advertising in newspapers and this and that. So those expenses it'd be nice to see a page, a slide where we can kind of see all of those sorts of expenses itemized, so we can get more of a full picture of what we're spending there, because I'm wondering because we sort of, these things come up over the year, and there isn't really a plan in place for what might be the best use of that funding. And we just kind of nickel and dime it as we go along. Well, this event, let's fund that, or, let's do this tabling opportunity or whatever. Let's buy a bunch of, coffee mugs or whatever. So I would like to see kind of how that all adds up, and then start to rethink how we could project our image differently and use that money potentially in a more productive way to better represent the district. I think there's some opportunities that we might be missing, and I think that there's some ways that we've been approaching marketing that might not be up to date. And I don't mean that as any sort of slam on the staff or anything. It's just everybody's very busy. These things tend to often get pushed off to the last minute. I know that because of the kind of business I'm in. And so then it's not always, the best approach isn't always well thought out. And I think that given some of the challenges the district has faced with our public relations, we have an opportunity to strengthen that area and maybe look at using the money that we're already spending in a more productive way, or maybe even reducing it somehow. I think we just need to kind of really think it through and have more of a plan in place. So that was my only comment.
Can you, because I'm hearing you.
Yeah.
But again, like something in writing, can you just shoot me an email about, kind of summarize what it is that you would like on the spreadsheet, or generally what you're looking for? And, because I can think, because like you said, some of it's special expense, some of it's advertising, so we will have to go kind of like on a treasure hunt, but we will, and we'll find it. It's just I need to know exactly what you need.
If I may, to piggyback on sort of this discussion, I'm hearing marketing. I'm also hearing sponsorships, because again, we're sponsoring.
Thank you for that word. Yeah.
And I use that every day, because at my work, that's the word we use for these types of things. Whether it's buying a table at this event, or buying an ad here, or giving, a voucher for a business for tours. So it's sponsorships, marketing. Are there other buckets that you could think? I think I'm hearing those two especially.
Well, advertising, right?
Advertising, marketing, yeah,
And
advertising.
I think you'll find some of that in each one of the budgets. Miller Point has some, administration has some, Oyster Point has some.
Commission has some,
It's a matter of pulling those out and kind of
Yeah.
quantifying them.
Yeah, I just wanted kind of how I can
And of
wrap my
course,
head around it.
administration, we have one as well.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why it is complicated to get a full picture, because we have it allocated to all these different organizational structures. So I know it's a lot of work to ask for this. I'm hoping that maybe if we could create some sort of spreadsheet or something, then that could become easier going forward to look at.
Okay, thank you.
And it would be good to compare years, like what did we spend last year versus what we're spending now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Holsinger.
Yeah. Not clearly set forth either within your presentation or in the draft proposed budget, but I think is a key issue that has to do with our fiscal health, is the issue of the funding of our pension liabilities. Mm-hmm. What I'm not able to see from either of those is whether or not our pension obligations, other than the monthly additions we need to make, are fully funded or not. And that's a grave concern for me for this agency.
It comes out on the quarterly investment report. There's a reserve where we calculate every quarter what that liability is. And then we have it as a reserve for termination benefit on the quarterly investment report, and that'll come
Because
out
I know there was,
Are you talking about the termination benefit, or are you talking about the CalPERS pension?
CalPERS pension.
Oh, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
that all funnels through CalPERS,
Oh.
so we can get that information from there. I
Oh,
mean,
I'm
we
sorry.
have hugely limited the amount of CalPERS that we're paying because we have, I think, 7 new employees.
I understand that, but what I also know is that there was a lot of money lost to a lot of public agencies, one of which was the Harbor District, that impacted the prospective pension liability versus the actual funds on hand. And so I'm concerned that that's an obligation that the district faces.
Well, the only obligation that I can think of that I know we had a huge pool-based one was when the change was made 10 years ago, I believe, when they went from a 2.2% at 55 to a 2.5% at 55, and that created a set-aside pool that was large.
Right. And I just
Prior
want,
to that, it wasn't, they didn't have that big pool that was set aside. So that's the only problem that I know of now. I haven't gotten any notes from CalPERS that there's our rates have increased, but that's all based on the overall CalPERS life as it lives. But our specific monies that are going out for CalPERS has decreased greatly because the last 7 employees that we've hired, it's a difference between paying, well, I would say the last 3, and then there's 4 more that were under a different umbrella, but the last 3 employees that we hired, it's the difference between paying 19 and 7, so that 26% and 6%. So we're not paying, we used to pay 26% for new employees, now we're only paying 6%.
I'm just-
That part is huge, and as people retire, that's going to start balancing out, not only in our world, but in CalPERS.
yeah. I'm just concerned about stepping back from the detailed picture and making sure that we don't have any sleeping monsters, so to speak, of unfunded pension liabilities. And it's like I said, it's not addressed either in the presentation here today or in the draft budget to have that information to make sure that we're in a sound position.
We pay biweekly, we pay our portion of CalPERS to CalPERS.
Okay.
I think the only thing we would probably have to look at is what is our liability in this pool?
Right.
Because that's, you know,
Right.
that we
And I
can
think
do.
what,
And what happened was Marcia was paying off the pool every year, a big amount, over 100,000. And then when she called, they said, what did they tell her? Basically,
it wasn't really helping.
it wasn't really worth it,
Really
yeah.
doing anything, yeah.
But PERS created some of that problem.
Yes.
8 years ago, when all this came about, PERS was flush.
Yes.
So they told all the cities, oh, don't worry about it, pay us later. And all the cities had to bite the bullet later on when it came due.
Yes.
And we didn't. We continued to pay, right, wrong, or indifferent. We were in a much better situation as a special district than 90% of the cities in this county. I mean, that was all through PERS problem. And then when the bottom fell out and they lost all that money, now they said, okay, we need money. And the cities were perplexed. How do we pay you now?
But now the question is, since the stock market is back at 16,000, what's the problem? But
They
that's
forgot,
for CalPERS to figure out.
they forgot the problems, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So, that's all. But yeah, he's right. I think there was a lot of places that were not paying. CalPERS had offered moratoriums.
And they
for
spent that
people.
money for other things, that's exactly right.
Well, is there, for the non-public employees in the room, is there a way that we could create like a chart or something that shows, what kind of condition we're in for paying unfunded liability? Do we have any unfunded liabilities? What are they? And how does that affect our budgeting? And that sort of thing? Is there, I think we've
We
seen
have
that.
it in the quarterly investment report, but I think what he wants is a phone call to find out, okay, we're paying you every biweekly this number of dollars.
What's the bottom line?
But what's the bottom line? If we were to close doors today, how much do we owe you? I think, isn't that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
I don't want any sleeping dragons to
No,
wake up
right.
and
Yes,
be a
and we
big
need-
problem,
yeah.
not only for the district, but also for the employees who are depending upon it.
Right.
It's like our old PTO.
So could we get a page added about that, just to clarify it?
Page summary.
Yeah.
Or a line in the budget would be good to clarify.
We don't put a liability in a budget.
Okay, well, maybe in this PDF.
Okay, let me make the phone call.
Yeah, please.
And then to see what sleeping dragons there might be. And
We have no sleeping dragons.
Yeah, Commissioner Tucker.
Just a couple of thoughts. I'll speak more when we come to our regular meeting and we get into the budget because I have some definite thoughts there. But, you know, if you look at this, and you did a very nice job, by the way, thank you. But if anybody with any kind of information on math, 1 + 1 is 2, you can look and see that the red line, which is what we spend, you know, is exceeding the black line, which is what we bring in. And anybody that knows anything knows that you can't keep appreciating 30% of reserves because at some point there are no reserves.
correct.
So we've got to carefully balance. And when we come to the part of our budget, I'm going to want to reinstitute or resurrect, if you will, South San Francisco, this area here, Oyster Point, with those 3 commercial parcels that seem to still be sitting there. That was one commercial project, parcel that I think we could split into 3, and with the support of South San Francisco, and they've already told us no planning fees, no permit fees. We need to see if we can't find a public-private partnership. We have to have more money in the pipeline. It's just that simple. And if you look around, there's very, very little that we can do to increase those kinds of things. And my goal has always been, you know, we euphorically call ourselves a enterprise district. Well, you know, we really aren't because we don't pay for our own expenses and revenue. It doesn't come that way. We take it from the taxpayers at the tune this year about 4.5, last year about 4.3 million. And what we've got to do now is find money for the pipeline. And I would love someday, as a matter of fact, well, I can't say what it was, but somebody recently asked me about that enterprise. And I said, if we could find $2 million in revenue additional, I'd be willing to take a shot at getting out of taking the taxpayer property tax money. Because I think we could squeeze that, we could make that work. But that's where we have to go now because you just can't keep taking 30%. And it's more like maybe 24%, but we just can't keep doing that. It just doesn't work. And that's what we have to think about.
Any other questions before I close public testimony? Okay, I would like to just finally just say again, I know it's been echoed. Oh, Commissioner
One
Brennan.
last
Yeah.
question, and we could get to this with the budget, but maybe I'm just not reading things very clearly, but I don't understand how much money the district has in the bank, and partly because we are buying this building with cash that in some fund that was set aside some time ago, I guess related to the El Granada Burnham Strip property that was sold. So for somebody who's really trying to understand, you know, what pots of money the district has in reserves or, you know,
It's in the quarterly investment report. It's going to come next meeting.
at the next meeting.
Yeah, because we have to wait for all the financial institutions to send us their reports, and then we create our report.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to echo again, thank you so much for creating such a complete, very thorough, and easy to understand presentation, because finance stuff tends to go over my head. I am just going to speak for myself, so I really appreciate this very kind of back to basics Finance 101 budget presentation. And maybe this is a hint, maybe you could also do a quarterly investment 101 presentation at some point. But with that, I'm going to close public testimony. We've done deliberation, and what is the pleasure of the commission at this point regarding this draft?
We're not accepting a draft. going on. It's just a question.
Okay, so no action. Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, I hear a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Point of order, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Grinnell?
There are 2 more items on your agenda.
4 and 5.
Rates and fees.
Yes. Big deal. Sorry. Okay, correct, you're correct. Okay, so right now we've closed public hearing. We're at item 4, which is draft district rates and fee schedule for FY 2014 and 15 for Oyster Point Marina. And then also the same for Pillar Point in item number 5. So, why don't we have Ms. Galarza continue with item 4 and 5, and then I have a public comment letter that I just want to put in for the record from Mr. Jonathan Wolfman. So, Ms. Galarza, would you like to continue with items 4 and 5, which is rates and fees for both Oyster Point and Pillar Point?
So we had a meeting, we being management staff and John Draper and Assistant Harbor Master Charles White, basically going through our rates and fees. We went through and just kind of tweaked some of the verbiage because especially with where it had to do with dinghies, we just called it watercraft. One of the big things that came up is the crab pot storage deposit. What happens with that is the fishermen come in, they put a deposit on a parking stall, and they leave all their garbage. They leave their pallets. We spend, how much do you think we spend getting rid of those, John? Guesstimate. $3,000. About $3,000 is our cost. But
Per
we
month,
have
I'm
been-
sorry, per month or annually or what?
Annually,
Okay.
for the fishing season. So here we are, we're refunding everybody their money, but we're incurring a $3,000 cost. That's not what we want to do. So what we want to say is if they use pallets, they will get no refund. Because that will help cover the cost of getting rid of the pallets. So that was one of the big changes for Pillar Point. Actually, I'll go through each one, Pillar Point. So-
Can I ask a question about the pallets? Because I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Does that mean that the district is buying pallets and providing them? What does
No,
it
no.
mean?
The fishermen, they bring their pallets in, they have to be permanently marked with the boats or the owner's name on them. So they'll put their tags, their pot tags on. Well, beginning of the season, they load the boats, the fish buyers take all the pallets and they'll mix them up because the fishermen, the buyers are loading up the boats. So now the buyers have stacks of pallets. The buyers take all those pallets, put them up in the upper lot. Well, they're all mixed matched. So they're not all Steve's over here, Joe's are here, and John's are over here. They're all mixed up in a big group. Now the fishermen have to go through and take all his pallets out and get them. Some of the guys just go and take their tags off them. If the pallets are broken, they don't want them, they have to get rid of them. Other ones, out-of-town boats will come in the middle of the night, drop off all their gear, and they have pallets and they leave them. It's easier for them to find pallets somewhere else on another port instead of come back and get pallets. So we end up at the end of the year with all these pallets. A lot of them are broken. I do call a pallet recycler who comes in, but he only wants the good pallets. He doesn't want the oversized ones or the undersized ones or the broken ones, and that's what we're left with. So we got to cut them up, get a debris box, and put them in a debris box.
So does this mean, just because I don't know, does this mean that pretty much all the people with crab pots have pallets, so they'll be paying?
Some people put them on trailers and bring the trailers up there.
I've seen that.
Some people do not use pallets because they can stack more pots in the stalls without pallets, because the pallets do take up more space. So there are several fishermen that do not use pallets. I'd say the majority do though.
Okay, so then what we'd be asking is for them to pay these fees as not as a deposit, deposit, but
As a payment.
as an actual fee. So it wouldn't be a deposit anymore,
Well, it
right?
would be a deposit that we just wouldn't refund. So because we called it a fee before, and many people got upset that we were charging them. They didn't feel it was right. Then we had a deposit, so I don't want to go back to start calling it a fee.
So for some people, it's a deposit if they don't use pallets.
Non-refundable deposit or a refundable deposit if you use pallets or you don't use pallets.
Okay, all right.
And there's, to piggyback on that, there's no way to capture any reimbursement of expense from the people that come in without,
We don't know who they are.
yeah.
Sorry, so,
Oh, okay.
If you could please
The other-
continue.
The other change in red is that the oil absorbent pads are now free with a limit of 6, and that has to do with our Clean Marina. We want them to use them. And under recreational vehicles, we need to be clear that all RVs must be self-contained. I think Scott said that he finds people walking around with buckets or things like that, so we want to make sure that they...
We've run into a few where they show up with a camper that doesn't have a holding tank. And so then we had to kick them out. And,
How are you going to know?
oh, it's real obvious.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Be able
Oh,
to
yeah.
tell?
Yeah. 5-gallon bucket outside the unit.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely
Yeah, it's just,
okay.
yeah, not good.
And then under recreational vehicles, back page, we just added this because we didn't have it in the rates and fees, and we used to have it. It's that $45 a day includes the launch ramp fees, and then all RVs must be self-contained. And that was it for Pillar Point. For Oyster Point, it's the same thing. We just changed dinghies to say watercraft, because then you can include something like a, what do you call
Like
it,
a
kayak or
Kayak
something.
or a jet ski
Yeah.
or something of that category.
And then again, we did the free oil pads for the same reason, and that was it. We didn't propose any new rate increases, just kind of cleaning up what we have.
no, I'm sorry, no rate increases for both harbors?
For both.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tucker.
Did you refer to what is probably our outdated business plan
What are you talking
as far as any rates increases and any recommendations?
Any other questions?
I have a few questions.
Okay, Commissioner Brennan.
On the oil absorbent pads for cleanup, why limit it to 6? Is it just that we don't have enough, or just wonder, is that?
Probably a combination of things. One is that they do have an expense for us, but also, you know, they're really good at home. So if someone was to come in and say, I want 100, we got to have a limit somewhere. And, you know, if it's really for boaters.
Well, what if they were like having a
Emergency? That's
situ-
different. That's totally different.
Then they can get as many
We have
as they-
spill kits on the docks.
Okay,
Yeah, there's actually spill kits that we're putting out if they're not there already on each dock on both sides, which they open up and it's got kitty litter to pads to, you know, Timbuktu in there,
okay. So with
booms and everything.
once this schedule is revised and approved by the board, is this going to be like our published information on our website so that people, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if we could add some language in there, just reminding people that in the event of an emergency, that there's this other,
Well, under the oil pads?
under the oil pad, that this is separate from the spill kits.
Usually that we wouldn't even be, you know, if there was a spill, basically we're out, everybody's running for pads and whatever right now. It's not even, that's just emergency response.
Okay, so but what if somebody was new and they just saw this on the website and they had a spill and it was late at night or something, and they thought that they could only get 6 of these little pads? Like, I just want to try to make it extra clear to people that we do have resources in the event of an emergency. I'm
You put it
wondering,
excluding emergencies.
something like that would be,
Just put parentheses excluding emergencies, maybe.
that would be helpful. Thank you. And then back to this business about the recreational vehicle parking. Has the district considered charging a fine for buckets?
I'm sorry, I missed that. For the RVs, you're saying?
A fine if people are caught using buckets to try to de-incentivize people from doing that?
Not in our ordinance code at the present time, but I think also, RVs for the boaters are people who are boating. They show up in the middle of the night, and they may not have that bucket out there at the time the issue comes up.
Well, I guess what I mean is if say, somebody was a recurring offender and it was, like you said, it becomes obvious, you know who's using these buckets because you see them, if they've been there for a month or whatever, or a week or whatever it is. I guess you're telling them that they have to leave. Okay. But could we add a fine to that? Is there a way? I don't know.
I'm sorry, if I may.
Let me piggyback on that.
I was going to piggyback on it.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to struggle with the sort of the logistical and pragmatic sort of way. Like, how would you enforce that, and how would you collect money, and how would you do all that?
But the only thing we could probably do is have it, you'd almost have to ticket like a parking ticket, but we'd have to have that in our rates and fees.
And how do you collect it? And what if they don't pay? And what if
That's the whole thing. Then you're chasing them for that. Right now, my concern is just that I don't want to have overflowing 5-gallon buckets of effluent that's basically in our parking lots.
We just get the sheriff's to sign on and help the safety.
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
That was my follow-up, is rather than
Just call
making the district personnel or the district code responsible for it, I would imagine checking with the sheriff's department about what violations are that they can cite them for at the same time that you're kicking them out.
Right.
We would.
Yeah. And there's different, if you're an RV owner, it's real common for smaller RVs that don't have a holding tank, that they have what looks like a little wagon that they can have their waste go into.
Yeah.
And then they go to one of our not pump stations, but dump stations by the restrooms.
Yeah.
And they would use that. And that's real common in the RV world. But when they just take a 5-gallon bucket and they don't take the precautions and they just assume that rainwater or whatever's in there, or someone could knock it over,
Where are they dumping it?
Dump stations.
Yeah.
Toilet.
Okay.
We're working with RCD also there's a grant out there to put a dump station for regular RVs up the street near Moss Beach, so that it would be available for all RVs in the area, because the only other dump station available for RVs where they hook a hose up out of their RV is the state park, which is south of town.
That's a really important point, because a lot of times people think, oh, well, we have one, it's at the Pillar Point RV lot. But we don't have one at the RV lot, where you would think that we would have one. There isn't one, because they're all hooked up to the sewage lines, which is unusual. So I'm glad to hear that you're working with the Resource Conservation
District. Yeah, we're trying to get a grant to work that out with the businesses.
Could you keep us updated on that?
There's a couple things. That was part of I believe I had that in the EMS report, but I can give you an update once I have an update.
There's also the occasional storm drain dump.
Oh, yeah. Not to get too far into the weeds, shall we say, but just in your neighborhood, the sheriff actually pushed out 3 different RVs that were behind a house, and they were dumping down the creek bed, and they'd been there for a couple months.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Okay, let's move on. I have a couple other questions. I'll try to be quick. Now, I noticed when I was comparing side by side these rates and fee schedules that there's some sort of kind of odd differences between them. For example, like with the birthing long-term transient, we've got 60 cents per foot per day for Oyster Point, and then we have 75 cents per foot per day for Pillar Point Harbor. And actually, those two are worded slightly different. That might be a typo, just FYI. So why aren't we consistent? And another example would be on berthing short term. We've got 85 cent per foot for Pillar Point, and we've got 80 cents per foot for Oyster Point.
Well, if you go to the rates itself, like on Oyster, and then go to the rates on Pillar, you'll see that there is a different rate schedule.
Yeah, I see that.
It's a location thing more than anything else.
So,
Well, different rates for here versus there.
so I see that we are charging more at Pillar Point Harbor for berth rates based on boat size, or slip size, rather. And I know that last time we looked at rates and fees, we were presented with a whole bunch of data that the staff worked really hard to gather, which gave us a comparison on what some of the other marinas and harbors in the area charge, and so that was helpful. So I guess when we're reviewing these fees, it'd be helpful to look back at that information again, so we could kind of look at,
Regional rates is what you're saying.
yeah, so we
Just
could
wanna make
kind of
sure I'm
look at
getting-
how we're
'cause I'm kind of also
doing.
helping Deborah here. She just stepped out for a minute.
So we could have something to compare to, so we could see like, okay, well, look, now this year they've gone up and we're
Right.
not going up, and, or we're high or we're low, that kind of thing would be helpful. And then we would have better understanding for the basis of these rates. And what, the data that supports them.
Okay.
And then on the website, is this how the information is pretty well presented now, or is this a little bit different, where we have this graph where it shows each
I think
berth
on
size?
the website, Georgia has a table where she puts everything. It's not a PDF of this.
Okay, so it's a table with the size and the cost.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that that stuff is really easy for people to read on the website, because I've gotten a few complaints from the public that they're confused about what our fees are. Maybe it's hard to find on the website. I don't know, I'm not looking at it right now, but it seems easy to read here. So this seems like a good example of how it could look. But if we're looking at this next time, it might be helpful to see all of this kind of on one page, so we could see side by side how Pillar Point Harbor compares to Oyster Point, because I'm like going back and forth, cross-referencing, trying to match it.
We can do that. One of the reasons that we have two different ones, we used to have it together, but because a commissioner has to step out during the Pillar Point thing, we separated them into two different. That's why they're separate.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we can make that.
But I understand why you don't want to do that on the website. I get that, because of the way the website's divided up. I think I'm almost done. Oh, regarding vacancies, I know that, in fact, there's a letter, I think, that President Bernardo was going to read regarding the fees for smaller berth sizes, like 26 foot at Oyster Point. And I know we've lost some people here, and we have a lot of vacancy at Oyster Point. So I'm just kind of feeling like we need to take a look at that and see what we can do to try to get more tenants here. And if we're losing tenants to our neighbors and we're surrounded by other marinas here, unlike Pillar Point Harbor where we don't have a lot of competition, then, I've heard from people that they're leaving and going to other marinas. And when I look at Google Maps and I see our Pillar Point Harbor Marina empty and the neighbors are fuller, it makes me feel like we're not doing something right. And so I think we need to look at our competitors' rates to see if that might be part of the issue, or we need to ask people. We need to find out, why are you going away? Why did you choose that place versus this one, and see what we can do to try to fill up. And I think for now, that's all my questions.
Okay, thank you. Well, that concludes the discussion of rates and fees scheduled for both Pillar Point and Oyster Point. So, I think that concludes it then. Thank you again, Deborah, for these really, really good, well-presented budget information. So do I hear a motion to adjourn? Do I hear a second? Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, I hear a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. And just for clarification, we're adjourned until 6 p.m.
Which one is for her?